Yeah, in this 30 minutes, and then I think we'll call it.
Okay.
Okay.
See, we did completely number 2, correct?
Yeah, we finished that.
Okay. Now, some of these are a little different.
Yeah.
List to me the priority of things we need to look for. Between quadratic factoring, greatest common factor, difference of perfect squares, how do you look for them? What order?
You go from greatest common factor to dopes to square root of both sides. You do the quadratic formula, or the quadratic, and then the quadratic formula.
Perfect.
Okay, and
So,
then this one.
what's this one gonna be?
This one's going to be greatest common factor because there's an x.
Go ahead, give me the next line.
And then we take the x from the 7x squared and put it in front of that equation. So then we have x parentheses 7x minus x.
Not minus x.
Or minus 1.
Okay, now multiply it
Yeah.
back together, make sure it's the same thing.
Yeah, it all equals because we have x times 7x, which is 7x squared.
You always want to do that step. Never neglect that step. Because otherwise you'd have made a mistake. You'd have had 7x minus x. Okay?
True.
By doing that step, you catch your mistakes instantly. Now, the fact that I have x times 7x minus 1 equals 0, I have two solutions. What are they?
Hold on, sorry, I got a text. What's that? What did you say? Sorry, can you repeat that for me?
Okay, here's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Solve it from there.
Do we have to factor it out?
No? You got two
No?
things multiplied together that are equal to 0.
Okay. So do we take the a and the b out? Do we take the x's out, I mean?
No?
No? Okay.
The most important principle in all of algebra probably is this one, where you have two things multiplied together equals 0. What does that mean about each of the things?
That means that both of the x's equal 0.
Both of the quantities equal 0.
Both of the
It's
quantities?
not both of the x's. Okay, that's one quantity, but that's the other quantity.
Okay.
So set each one of them equal to 0 and solve. What do you get?
We get, well, both of the quantities equal 0 then.
Each one
So
of
we
them,
just
one
get
at a
0.
time, set equal to 0.
Okay, well, mm, one quantity is a, right? Which is the first part there,
So
which
x
is
equals
x.
0, okay?
X equals 0.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have b, which is well equals 0. Is that that's the whole next part, the parentheses.
Correct. Tell me what
Okay.
it is. I don't know from A or B. I know from x and 7x minus 1.
So 7x minus 1 equals 0.
Solve that.
And then we add 1 to the other side. And then we have 7x equals 1 divided by 7. And we have x equals 1 over 7.
Okay, that's the answer to that first one. And we
Yeah.
had to use greatest common factor. We didn't use difference of perfect squares. We didn't use the third one. We didn't use the standard quadratic factoring. We certainly didn't use the quadratic formula. Now, the second one, B.
We can factor this one, right?
Well, you tell me.
No, this
Go
one
through
would
the
factor
order.
out.
Go through the order of priority.
Okay.
Is there a GCF?
No.
Is it dopes?
No.
Yes.
It
Whenever
is.
you see an x squared term and a number and they are being subtracted, look for dopes, because that's what
So if an
you're most
x squared
likely
term and a
looking
number.
at, is dopes.
Okay.
So how would that factor?
We would have the two parentheses. We'd have 7x and 7x in the first part. And then -4 and +4.
Okay, solve that.
Okay, we make both of those parentheses equal to 0.
Okay.
And we have 7x minus 4, which is 4 over x equals 4 over 7. And the other one, which is 7x plus 4 equals 0.
Okay.
We'd have x equals -4 over 7.
All right, perfect.
And yeah, that's it there. Okay.
Don't have a lot of writing room here. So now the next one, C.
Okay. So this one doesn't have a greatest common factor.
You're correct. Even if
Can
I look
we
at both sides of the equation, there's nothing I can factor out of everything.
Yeah, there's nothing you can factor out. But the first thing we do is we put that.
Can't do greatest common factor. Is it dopes?
I think so, but at the same time, I think that
Dopes
3x
never
is
has
not
an
right.
x term. Notice
Dopes.
that does not have an x term.
Okay.
Dopes never has an x term. Well, I'm looking at an x term right there. So this is not dopes.
Okay. Is it just quadratic formula then?
Exactly. Now,
Okay.
how do I need to solve it if it's a quadratic formula?
Well, we have to put the 3
I
on the
don't
other
mean
side.
quadratic formula. I mean factor it as a standard quadratic.
Yeah.
Let's ignore this one for the moment until we get the problems that we can use that on. That really is not one of the 4 standard techniques. In other words, when you look at a equation and you're looking as to how to do it, you go through greatest common factor, you go through dopes. The next thing you do is quadratic formula or quadratic factoring. Different than quadratic formula. So far we haven't done one yet, quadratic formula, but we're going to do quadratic factoring here on that number C. Well, when you do quadratic factoring, this one right here, what has to be on one side of the equation?
0.
Okay. How do I
So
make?
we have to add 3x
Okay.
to the other side.
With the right. What's the new equation?
We have 2x squared plus 3x minus 20 equals 0.
Good.
And
now let's factor that.
okay. So we have 2x and x in the beginning part. And this one we can take a 5 and a 4 and -5.
Do not forget the second step. That's where everybody goes wrong, is they forget the second step.
Is a positive and negative?
Okay, that is the second step. Determine both signs. And I have to write it like this also because these coefficients are different. The coefficients of the x terms are different.
Okay.
So I have to allow for both. Now, what's the next step?
We can take a 5 and a 4, a
Well,
negative.
yeah, we want factors of 20. And we're going to start off experimenting with 5 and 4.
It just seems like they would fit the most.
Well, the rule is try the two factors that are closest together. Okay? It may not
Okay.
work, but it might. Let's try 5 there, 4 there. Does that work?
The 5 would have to be negative.
Aha. In other words, you
Because
notice
then,
immediately that that would give you minus 3x.
in doing that double smiley face thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, in other words, it's very important if you get the right number and the wrong sign, then the answer is obvious. In other words, is all you have to do is move the number down to the other sign. In other words, we got the right number, 3, but it was the wrong sign, negative. So the 5 moves down to the minus sign, the 4 moves down to the plus sign, and our answers are 2x minus 5 equals 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. What are my two solutions?
You add 4 on one side, so we have 2x. So we'd have 5 over 2 for the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And for the next one, we just have negative 4.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, number D.
Okay. You can already tell that this one doesn't factor out with quadratics. We'd have to use a quadratic formula on this one because of the negative 1.
Yeah, let's make sure we go through all the steps. There's no greatest common factor.
Mm-hmm.
There's no difference of perfect squares because there's an x term. And
Yeah.
you're right. You're way ahead of me. If we try to factor it using typical quadratic factoring, it's not going to work. We're never going to produce a middle term of 5x. So the only thing left is the quadratic formula. What's the quadratic formula, the general format?
Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus a.
4ac.
Oh, that's right. It's 4ac over 2a.
Okay. Tell me what a, b, and c are.
A is negative 2. B is 5. And C is negative 1.
And now substitute.
So we get negative 5 plus or minus 5 squared, the square root of 5 squared, minus 4 parentheses negative 2 parentheses negative 1.
And
all over 2 parentheses negative 2.
That's negative 4.
Yeah.
Simplify what's inside the radical.
Okay.
That's always the next step.
Negative times a negative is positive, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we have that's just 8, negative 8. So we have 25 minus negative 8. So no, it's just minus 8.
Okay. This is the easiest place to make the mistake here.
Okay.
The reason people make mistakes here very easily is they try to do that whole thing in one step. They try to do 25 minus 4 times minus 2 times minus 1. Do not do it in one step. Do it in 2 steps. And the first step is very critical. That's the part you want to do first. Notice that I left out the negative sign. That's because that is subtraction. That is not a negative sign. That is subtraction. So Do what's inside the black circle. What can I replace that with?
Just replace it with an 8.
Okay. Now you got what?
So we get 25 minus 8.
Okay, what is that number?
17, I believe.
So that's what goes in there.
Okay.
And it's not that easy to come up with it. I mean, notice what we were looking at. We were looking at 3 minus signs. We had a -4, -2, and a -1. You talk about a recipe for disaster, and it's all over -4. Can that be simplified?
No, that looks like it's it.
If I said, what were my 2 x-intercepts, what would you answer?
The 2x intercepts? Can you show me how to find that? I feel like I remember it, but at the same time, a little foggy.
You're looking at it. These are both of them. That's what you solve for when you use the quadratic formula. Notice that for D, it's equal to 0. So that tells me that y is equal to 0. And when y is equal to 0, those are your x-intercepts.
Okay, that makes sense.
Both of them. I want to make sure you know what both of them are. What's the first one?
So they both fit into that bottom equation there, right? So would one of them be -4?
No.
No.
Difference between the two is that right there.
Okay.
So the first one is -5.
-5 and +4?
Not, you got to put the whole thing out there. I'm not sure where you're getting this for. That's just the denominator.
Okay.
That's one x-intercept. What is the other?
That's one x. Is it the is it +5 minus?
No.
No.
What do I have circled over here?
You have
right here. What's that say?
Wait, where are you pointing? I can't see.
Circling it hundreds of times.
Oh, there it is. So you have the plus or minus.
Okay. That means one answer is plus, the other answer is minus.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
That's what that means. So the second answer is what?
So -5 minus 7 to the square root of 17 over -4.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's what that plus or minus means. A lot of people go through their whole math career knowing plus or minus, but they don't know what it means. They don't know that one answer is the plus, the other answer is the minus.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, let's do this.
This one actually, how can I do this one? Let's see. Yeah, we got time for this one.
Yeah, we can do this last one here. This is just a quadratic factoring problem, isn't it? Okay. So we have the parentheses. We take 3x and then x in the beginning parts. And because the middle term's a negative, right? Is it?
Not the middle term, it's the last term.
Yeah, okay.
Because this -1 is a negative, means the signs have to be
positive, right? Or negative?
Opposite.
Opposite. Okay, that makes, I can remember
Only
that.
opposite signs can produce a negative sign.
That's true.
Remember what the last step of FOIL is. The last step of FOIL is multiplying the two numbers together. Well, if they were both negative, that would be a positive. If they were both positive, that would be a positive. But if they are different signs, then I can produce a -1. again, because the coefficients of the x are different, I have to allow for both plus and minus plus.
Okay.
Now, what next?
So we had to produce the middle term at the outside with the factors of 1, so we just have 1 and 1.
Factors of 1?
Just 1 and 1.
Okay, so we'll just randomly try it. I'll put 1 there and 1 there.
And with the middle term, the double smiley face method, we have 1x. We have 1x and then 3x.
No,
Negative 3x, that is.
negative 3x.
Yeah.
Now what?
And now they subtract and equal 2x, so that thing factors out.
Hold on. You're not subtracting them, you're adding them.
Oh, you're adding the 1x to the negative 3x, and it equals negative 2x, which is the middle term.
Which means
That it factors correctly.
we've got it perfectly. In
Yeah.
other words, we accidentally hit it on the first try. So I can erase that minus sign, I can erase that plus sign, and we end up with plus 1 minus 1. And that produces that middle term. What are my solutions?
We equal both of the parentheses to 0. So the first one we have is a negative 1 over 3, and then 1.
Good. Very good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I think you're making progress for sure.
Yeah, I'm happy.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
We'll talk to you next time.
See you.
Bye-bye.